Yo, what is good, everyone? Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prodigy channel, and we're once again going to be setting our lineups across my 3 fantasy leagues just to keep you guys up to date with what's going on in my real life leagues. We got some redraft and dynasty leagues, non-PPR, half PPR, all sorts of good stuff to get into. So before we get into the video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. And let's start with our first league. This is the League of Bros. This is a non-PPR redraft league, 1 quarterback. And my Bungling Buffaloes are on a 3-game winning streak. We had a slow start to the year. I think we started 0-2 or 0-3, something like that. But we're now 7-3. We got the win over a pretty solid team with FKD. On my squad, I picked up Justin Fields a week or 2 ago. And, I mean, if you guys know, you know he's been crazy good. Jonathan Taylor, he emerged. He finally had that breakout game. It was against the Raiders. So that's a bad defense, but hopefully he can keep it going in a tougher matchup against Philly. Tyreek Hill came through with a touchdown. Dalton Schultz, the guy that I loved in the draft season, is my favorite tight end value. He had a slow start with injuries and Dak Prescott not playing, but it's looking like he might be back. But yeah, we were without Njoku, no Rhamondre, no Pats D, and we don't have Javonte Williams, who I drafted in the 2nd round. My opponent was missing Jamar Chase, Judy, Kyler Murray. So he was without some players too. And then moving on to the transactions here, all I did was I dropped Kyren Williams and added Nick Folk because I needed a kicker. And I am actually keeping 2 kickers on my bench. I normally don't do this, but Jason Meyers, he's been like the #1 kicker in all of fantasy, I believe. And we do have kickers in this league. It's just like a 10-year league, and we had kickers back in the day, so we just still have them. It's kind of just a fun little tradition. But I don't recommend kickers. We just I don't even know why we have them still. But this week, in week 11 of the 2022 fantasy football season, I'm going up against the #1 seed. They're on a 9-game winning streak, and they're 9-1, so I guess they lost the first game and won every game since. He has already had Aaron Jones start. No Juju, no Khalil Herbert, no Jalen Waddle. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is basically useless at this point. So that's kind of what he's dealing with. And then for my squad, I'm starting Justin Fields at quarterback against Atlanta. I think he'll be, at this point, he's an auto start. If Atlanta doesn't keep up with this Bears offense, I could see Fields maybe not having one of his nuclear games, but I think he'll still put up points. That offense runs through him. But we might see a little bit more David Montgomery involved in this game, especially with no Khalil Herbert. Miles Sanders, along with Rhamondre Stevenson, those are 2 late-round running backs that have really saved my season, with Jonathan Taylor having a slow start and Javonte missing the year. Those guys have been super clutch for me, and they're pretty much guys I start each and every week at this point. Jonathan Taylor, I'm going to roll with him against Philly, even if he didn't have that great game. I drafted him 1st overall. He's someone that I pretty much am just starting every week at this point if he's healthy. At wide receiver, we got Courtland, Sutton. It's a good matchup with the Raiders. I'm hoping, especially with no Jerry Jeudy, I'm hoping he can just have a solid game here because that's just what he needs. And then Darnell Mooney, I'm stacking him with Fields against Atlanta. It's a low-volume passing offense, but Mooney's a talented player, and he just needs one big play, and he could get that against Atlanta. And if you look at my other options, I'm without Tyreek Hill, I'm without DK Metcalf, so if I had one of those 2, I would play them over a guy like Darnell Mooney. But we have bye weeks, so it is what it is. And I did recently acquire Marquise Hollywood Brown, and he is coming back from injured reserve. I did trade Garrett Wilson away for him a couple weeks ago, just because I didn't really need him in the short term. I'd rather have Hollywood in the long term, so we'll get him back pretty soon. Looks like David Njoku, he's questionable. He's coming back somewhat soon. Nick Folk at kicker, and then I'm starting the Patriots defense at home against the Jets. And then here are our standings. I'm currently number 3. We're looking pretty good here for the League of Bros. I did win the championship in this league last year. I've won it a few times over the 10 years, so I'm looking for another trophy here. Now we're going to move on to another redraft league. This was an auction draft. So the first one was just a standard stake draft. This is a redraft league where we did an auction draft. It's a Superflex. We got 3 wide receivers. You can start 2 quarterbacks with that Superflex spot. We have 1 regular flex, so there's a lot going on. But if you look at the other side of the ball here, I kind of just lost because Jefferson went crazy and Justin Fields went off. Those were 2 guys that and Dalvin Cook. In that crazy game against Buffalo, my Minnesota Vikings, they put up some stats, but man, even though Eno Benjamin had a goose in his lineup, he still just beat me. Geno had a pretty good game. JT had his good game. Aaron Jones went off. Dak had almost 20 points, but it just wasn't quite enough. I would have beat a lot of teams. It looks like I would have lost to this team, the team I played, and that's it. No team had more than 129. This team had 126, but I've just been pretty unlucky in this league. My points have been, I had a slow start. I've been a little bit better lately, but total points scored have been all right, not great. But I've had a few close games or like a week like this where I scored a lot. I just went up against a team that happened to have a lot of points. So it is what it is. Zach Ertz is now out for the season. Jakobi Meyers was on bye. I could have played Brian Robinson, but I was never going to play him over these three running backs that I started. So it just kind of is what it is. You know, sometimes you have a league and it just goes like that. Here are the transactions that have been made in this league recently. If you care, I'm just going to focus on my team, the Iron Men. So what did I do here? I dropped Treylon Burks, which I didn't really want to do, but I just had him on my IR. And then since he came off IR, I didn't really want to drop him. Or I didn't want to drop someone else to keep him. So I just cut Treylon Burks, and he had a good game on Thursday. And I am recording this on Sunday, October 20th, by the way, like 4 a.m. I don't know why I'm up right now, but it is what it is. I'm staying up just to get this video out for you guys. And I did have to pick up Tyler Conklin because Dallas Goedert, and he's on injured reserve, one of my tight ends, and then Zach Ertz is out for the year. So that's tough. I did drop Wan'Dale Robinson and pick up Ben Skowronek just because of the Cooper Kupp injury. I think he plays a lot. He might be involved. But then I dropped him and added Zach Wilson because my opponent, he has Kyler, who as of this recording is questionable. He might not play. There's not that many quarterbacks on the waiver wire. I'll show you in a second here. But I was just kind of blocking him. So, you know, okay, you can't pick up Zach Wilson now because he's on my squad. And later on, I'm not sure how this website works, where if I drop Zach Wilson for another quarterback, if it makes it so Zach Wilson is on waivers, or if he's still a free agent to be freely picked up because not enough time passed since I picked him up. I'm not really sure the exact settings about that, but if you take a look at the quarterbacks here for who's available, Clyde Edwards-Helaire did get dropped in this league, which I'm not picking him up. I'm not going to do it. He's not involved in that offense anymore. But if you look at who else is left, it would be Colt McCoy, Kyler's backup, or Baker Mayfield. So it's looking like my opponent is not going to have a good start. And I did already play Aaron Jones, who had a pretty pedestrian game on Thursday, only 11 points. Could have been worse, but I was hoping for more. But yeah, in terms of decisions here, I'm going with Kirk and Dak at the quarterback Superflex. Geno is on bye, along with Kenneth Walker, Metcalf, and Jalen Waddle. I also drafted Javonte Williams in this league, and he's out for the year as of a long time ago. Dallas Goedert is on IR. Zach Ertz is out. So we are just dealing with a lot right now, guys. It's just been a tough year. Man, it's just not ideal. I did actually send out a trade right here where I would be sending Dallas Goedert and Conklin for Dalton Schultz, just because Goedert is probably better for the rest of the season. Maybe. I don't know. I love Dalton Schultz. But hopefully the perception would be, hey, I'm giving you Dallas Goedert to a more of a contending team that doesn't necessarily need the wins as much as me. Hey, you get this upgrade at tight end, but you have to wait a few weeks for him to come back. I'll also give you Tyler Conklin to start, just someone to throw in there. You give me Dalton Schultz so I can start him. I don't think he's going to accept it because the gap between Schultz and Goedert probably isn't that much. I mean, they're probably pretty even. It just kind of depends on his perception. So we'll see, but the game's kind of start in 4 hours, so I'm not sure as of this recording. So I'm not sure what's going to happen, but JT is in at my running back spot. And with no Kenneth Walker, I am going to be starting Brian Robinson against the Houston Texans. I'm expecting him to see 20-plus carries, and it's pretty much the best matchup in all of fantasy for running backs against the Houston Texans. So I'm expecting good things from him. Tyler Conklin, like I said, with my tight end injuries, I just had to pick someone up. A couple weeks ago, 6 for 79 and 2 touchdowns against the same Patriots defense. I'm not saying he's going to do that, but hopefully he's involved where he's seeing, close to 10 targets. That would be a dream. Even if he sees more than 5, I'll take that. And hopefully he does something with it, maybe gets in the end zone. And at wide receiver, it's just brutal, guys, with my bye weeks and all that. Brandin Cooks, who's been a disappointment. The only real decision was him or Curtis Samuel. I've been going back and forth. I just think Washington is going to be able to run the ball, and any passing work is largely going to go to McLaurin, Scary Terry. So Curtis Samuel hasn't seen more than 4 targets in the last 3 games. So I'm just going to go with Cooks, even though it's been ugly. I think Washington will be winning, and maybe, they'll throw the ball a little bit, but Cooks has been targeted a decent amount all year. It just hasn't resulted in much, but I'm just going to stick with him. Jakobi Meyers against the Jets. The Jets defense is actually solid, but again, he had a good game against them a few weeks ago. 9 for 60 and a touchdown, 13 targets, and I really don't have another choice just with my options. And then Josh Palmer. I heard Mike Williams is likely going to play. I don't think Keenan Allen is going to play last I heard. I'll monitor the situation. If I do have to make a swap, I'd probably put Curtis Samuel in there, but I'll probably just stick with Palmer as long as only one of the two returns for that game. And if I do make any changes, I'll comment it down below and put it in the description like always. I haven't really had to make too many changes after posting these videos yet this year, so this might just be my final lineup. And then for the standings, only 4 teams. By the way, this previous league was a 12-team league. This is a 12-team league right here. And then this is a 10-team league right here. So only 4 out of 10 make the playoffs. I'm thinking about making it 6 next year just because it keeps it a little more interesting for the bottom teams, such as myself this year. I do have 2 championships in like 4 years in this league, so it's just an off year for me, okay? But we're like 3 games back of the 4 spot, so we're going to need some luck. But in terms of points scored, I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm 6th out of 10. But a lot of us, like from here to like here, it's all very close. Like no team is really that dominant in terms of points scored. I mean, this team, the more the merrier, has a 70-point lead on second place, so that's pretty prominent. But even my points against aren't crazy. I have the 4th most points against, which isn't that bad. It's just the way that the scoring has happened. It's like, oh, I have a low scoring week, and I almost beat another low scoring team, but I just barely lose. I get a high scoring week, but I played another high scoring team. It's just kind of stuff like that. So it's just been an unlucky year. But speaking of scoring a lot of points, or not a lot of, what am I trying to say here? Speaking of scoring points, I have been scoring a lot of points in this league lately. So week 8, I had the most points in the league. Week 9, my prodigious team had the most points in the league. And then week 10, I had the 2nd most points in the league. Just getting beat out by draft Josh Allen. You hate to see it. But taking a look at that was last week, right? Yeah, taking a look at the matchup really quick. Tua, JT, Hopkins, McCaffrey, Godwin. I had a really good week, really solid week from my team. Matt Ryan, who is someone I had cut, I did pick him up. You'll see why in a little bit here, unfortunately. But other than that, I was without Mixon. Robinson was on bye. Not that I was going to play him. Mike Williams was injured. But yeah, those are pretty much the main injuries I was dealing with, and that's our little recap of week 10. For transactions, I added Matt Ryan. I cut PJ Walker. I added Sterling Shepard. It's a 30-man roster. It's a 30-man dynasty roster. This is a 10-team league also, so there's not a lot on the waiver wire. But this is our dynasty league, by the way, if I didn't say. This is half PPR. Just like the previous league, this was also half PPR. Sorry if I forgot to say all the settings. It's a lot to remember. But as you see, I am starting Matt Ryan this week. You might think, hey, how can your team be good if you're starting Matt Ryan? Well, I have Tua, Brady, and even Trevor Lawrence on the taxi squad, but they're all on a bye week in week 11. So it's either Matt Ryan or that's pretty much it. That's all that's on the waiver wire. I think Colt McCoy might be out there if he gets a start, but I'm just going to go with Matt Ryan. I just need him to keep me afloat, which he might not against Philly, but I have no other options. Easy calls here are Miles Sanders, JT, Christian McCaffrey, and Mixon. Those guys are pretty much auto starts each and every week. Maybe Miles Sanders you could bench if you have a better option, but I don't, so I'm going with Miles Sanders. And then this is where things get tricky. So Courtland Sutton against the Raiders, I think he's going to have a bounce back game. He's a lock. So I currently have Hopkins in my lineup, who is questionable for Monday night. Okay? I also have DJ Moore in my lineup, who, as of this recording, is healthy and is going to play, but he plays at noon. And then on my bench, I have Mike Williams, who is questionable to play as of this recording, and he plays on Sunday night. So as it stands, ideally, I would just play Mike Williams and Hopkins, right? But I don't want to get into a situation where I didn't play DJ Moore at noon, it gets to the night game, and either Hopkins or Mike Williams, or both of them are out, and I don't really have a good pivot option. So as of now, I just have DJ Moore in there. I'm going to see what happens. If it gets close to the Sunday night game and I don't know what's going on with Hopkins, I might just have to put Mike Williams out there. And if Hopkins plays, oh well, I missed out. Or if I want to risk it with Hopkins, I do have Greg Dortch. That might be a decent pivot option. But, man, it's a little bit tough. But I'll monitor what's going on with that, and I'll post it down below to see what happens and if I make any changes. And I am starting Dalton Schultz at tight end. Dallas Goedert is on injured reserve. I have him in this league. And Kyle Pitts, I love him for Dynasty, but week to week this season, there's just not enough passing volume, and the targets just aren't good enough for Mariota. And Dulcich, he was dropped in this league, like before his little breakout, and I picked him up, and he's been great. So I actually did send a trade offer recently. I think it was like DJ Moore and Dulcich for Olave and like a second in like a couple years. So I'm hoping this guy likes Dulcich as like a future tight end star. And doesn't really realize how good Olave is, because I think Olave of the New Orleans Saints wide receiver, Chris Olave, I think he's going to be amazing. He actually drafted Olave with a first-round pick that I gave him in a trade where I acquired DJ Moore from him, along with like other things like Tua and Chris Carson, who never even, I caught him because he had his neck injury, but he was just a throw-in. So it was a big trade. I gave him also like Calvin Ridley. There was a lot of moving parts, but it's kind of weird how fantasy works out. But long story short, we're in second place, 7-3. We're ahead of third place by one game. We're a couple games back of first, but we're looking pretty good here. I started 0-3 in this league, and we're on a 7-game winning streak, actually, as you can see. So that's huge. That's amazing. For points scored, we're actually not super high, but we had a really slow start. Like I said, 0-3. And we've been scoring a lot of points lately. I did trade for Christian McCaffrey in this league, and so far, that's been working out pretty well. Knock on wood here. This is a wooden door. But anywhere from like, I don't know, here to here. I mean, they're like 100 points ahead of me. I'm like 100 points ahead of them. So it's pretty close, but I'm thinking, we'll be good. I really do like my team. And then points against, I do have the fewest points against. So I have been a little bit lucky. I probably shouldn't have as good of a record as I do at 7-3. But I also kind of had a bad start. So it's good that the fantasy gods were on my side for this one. But yeah, that's pretty much all of the decisions I have to make this week. Nothing too crazy. I just got to figure out what's going on with Hopkins and who's the other guy? Hopkins and Mike Williams, just to see what's going on with that and how DJ Moore factors into that. But that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I like making these videos to keep you guys up to date with what's going on in my leagues. And good luck in week 11. You guys need to win. I hope you get it. And even if you don't need to win, I hope you win, because we always need to win. Even if you think you're going to cruise to the playoffs, you never know. You never know what can happen. So make sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.